Hello, hey, is anybody watching? And if you are, can you let me know if you can see and hear me in the chat? I think it's working. Loud and clear. Thanks, Yumi. Fantastic. Can you hear my voice okay? And can you hear the guitar okay? So I'm going to just try a backing track as well. Mr. Cassidy, how you doing, sir? Seems like everybody in your video was, seems like everyone was saying the Strat is the best guitar. So I think, certainly the top answer, I think. How you doing, man? And how is everybody? Welcome to this Jams and Drams stream. I'm doing some practicing, doing some hanging out and having a whiskey. It's been quite a year already, and I don't feel like it's actually started for many reasons. It's been a challenging time in life, and one thing after another has meant that work has been a little bit on the back foot for the first couple of months now, really. But this is something I really want to do. I want to commit to the live stream format. I don't know how good it is. I was talking to Steve at the guitar show about this, Steve Cassidy in the chat, about how good live streams are for growing a channel, but for me, I just like it so much. It harkens back to when I first started playing guitar online, 2016, and how much fun I had doing it. So regardless of whether it's good or not for a channel, I mean, it's definitely going to be something I want to commit to and come back to it. And it reminds me again of doing the old Guitar Hour live streams as well. So the format for these, what I'm going to try and do is come up with a topic, something to talk about. But you guys in the chat, please feel free to derail me, ask whatever questions you like. Hopefully it's music, guitar related. But yeah, just to kind of focus myself, I'm going to do a bit of a theme. Yes, Steve. So this is my main custom. Well, it's become the signature model I was telling you about now, the Fibonacci Roadmaster Classic. It's tealish, so it's like Lake Garda blue, but we called it officially Lake Placid blue, but we called it Lake Garda blue. Lake Garda is where I got married to my wife Sarah in Italy on Lake Garda. So that sweetens the deal for getting a new guitar if you give it a finish in the related to your wedding. No, I'm jesting. She's very supportive of my guitar acquisitions, but yeah, so it's quite a nice thing to give it the finished colour of Lake Garda blue. Andergas guitar, evening. Nice to see you, man. Herb1234. Good evening, mate. Hope you're well. Remember I mentioned Jeff Tyson and Dan Reed. Ah, yes. They were the original bass player from. Oh, very good. Very cool. Yeah. So this is the Fibonacci Roadmaster in Lake Garda blue, and they are now. I think there's one now in Angel City Guitars in LA, and there's another 7 being produced throughout the course of the year. And yeah, hopefully we'll be promoting, demoing those at various guitar shows. Steve, are you going to the Montreux, Switzerland guitar show, by the way, if you're still watching? So today's stream, what I wanted to do is talk about fretboard visualization, tie it into a couple of things I've got going on. So the first thing I must say is that I'm running the discount on the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course. So this is the mega course that I put together with Tom Quayle for visualizing the fretboard. This is like our sort of magnum opus on this subject, if you like. So this is what we released last year. If you've got it, great. We're going to talk about aspects of it. If you don't have it and you want to pick it up, I'm running an exclusive discount for this live stream with $60 off, which is the biggest discount I've done so far. And yeah, if you want to get that, you can use the link in the checkout for the duration of the live stream and use the code BBLive2025 at checkout, BB with 2 letters. And yeah, that'll be valid for an hour or so after the live stream finishes if you want to grab that. So yeah, just letting you know, sponsored, I feel like, by the course. Yeah, so that's the main thing. Registry office beige. Yeah. So that's the main thing I wanted to plug, really, and also the Solo app as well. I'll be demoing and using some of the Solo app during the live stream a little bit later on. So if you want to grab that, the links are also in the description for that, for the iOS version 2 and the Solo for Android version 1.4. But yeah, so those are the plugin things. So the topic, if you like, what I wanted to kind of really talk about, originally it was going to be gear related. So originally I was going to be talking about modelers, my FM3 and all that kind of stuff. And then I got a notification on my Apple Watch from YouTube saying, well, I misread it. I read it as John Cordy says I'm not an advanced guitar player, which was really, really funny. And John Cordy is a really good friend of mine. We're forever giving each other a stick and banter. So I thought it was something related to that. But it wasn't, I misread it. He was talking about a Corey Wong video. And he did this little lesson, if you like, on learning the fretboard, learning the note names, and a video that Corey Wong had done where he was talking about you're not an advanced guitarist if you don't really know the notes on the fretboard. And that got me thinking a lot, watching Corey's video and Cordy's video, got me thinking a lot about my own journey with fretboard visualization over the last 10 years. Well, my whole entire guitar playing life, but specifically over the last 10 years. And the changes that I made in my practice and in my philosophy that made an enormous breakthrough. And it's something I've not talked about on YouTube before, I don't think anyway, certainly not in my own videos. But it's something I've mentioned and talked about on the Guitar Hour podcast, if any of you listen to that with my journey. It's something that basically I started playing guitar when I was 8 or 9 10, around those kind of ages. And then I played through, you know, a lot of folk music, classical music, blues, classic rock. This was in the sort of early 90s period. And I kind of got pretty good technically, and I learnt songs, I learnt music theory. I even learned to read music. So in principle, I should have had some understanding of where the notes, what the actual notes are on the fretboard, and have good fretboard visualization skills from an early age, but it never really was deep enough. It never really clicked. And it was never really applicable. I could never apply it to anything. So by the time I went to music college in the year 2000, I could do lots of pre-prepared things, and I could do a lot of like fairly advanced technical solos, Steve Vai, Dream Theater, that kind of thing. I could play pre-prepared jazz things. I could play classical music. I had good knowledge of music theory, but like I've discovered so many people, I couldn't apply it in real time for improvisation. And I went through music college, I went through jazz college 4 years, really bluffing and blagging it, and it never really clicking. I did scrape my way through and I did graduate, but it was really, I didn't feel comfortable or confident that I really deserved to. I certainly didn't have the skills to be able to, you know, graduate with a jazz degree and say I was a jazz guitar player. And that led to a lot of issues and struggles with my musical playing, my career, and my sort of mental health through my sort of 20s. In my early 30s then, I had this sort of dawning realization that I wanted to do something about this. And it was when I was 31, 32. I was asking, basically it was like Corey Wong from the future reaching back into the past and telling me that I wasn't an advanced guitar player. This is sort of 2012-ish time, 13. And I basically was looking in the mirror and realizing this, like I was kind of bluffing and blagging so much of it. Despite having technical pre-prepared things and to be able to play songs, I could do gigs and things, and I could teach. I was sort of, the core element of what I had actually supposed to have gone to music college for was completely bluffed and blagged. And I was looking in the mirror, and it was a very difficult experience, but I had to admit to myself that I really didn't know the fretboard well. And it was, I wish I knew the exact date. I don't, but there are certain dates that stick out. But it's definitely one of those things that in that period of time, over a couple of months in the sort of 2011 period, I made the decision to burn it all down. So despite having already at that point in 2011 played for 20 years, probably, 20 years, I decided I was going to effectively start over when it comes to learning the fretboard, to knowing note names, to navigating it, how I would utilize this with my intended goal and purpose of being able to finally play through changes and improvise. So I spent a couple of years, 18 months, couple of years, really putting the work in. I kind of knew what I had to do deep down, I think, all along, but it's one of those things where I just never did it. And it was that point of looking in the mirror, having seen Corey Wong's reflection telling me off, basically, from the future, that I didn't really know the notes on the fretboard, and I didn't really know, couldn't navigate it in a applicable musical way. So I made that decision to really put the work in. I did this over a period of about 18 months. And then from that period, then sort of 2015, so this was sort of 10 years ago, I started jamming with Tom Quayle, Dan Smith, doing the Guitar Hour stuff, and that kind of sent me down a whole other rabbit hole of like actually putting this stuff into practice, and then playing and, you know, really starting to just jam with other guitar players, which I'd never really done before. And that was a fantastic outlet for some of this stuff, and it really just like dragged me through onto the next level. And yeah, so that stuff was incredibly useful, and it sort of put the sort of all the stuff I was practicing into context. So I want to talk. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about what exactly the kind of things it was I was doing back then, what it turned into, and how it ultimately ended up with the, you know, creating the solo app, and creating my own courses and culminating in the ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course. And really my playing, transforming my playing and my life really from being a very mediocre, careful how I phrase this, from being a very mediocre guitar player or having, very deep holes in terms of my abilities, to transforming that into having, to strengthening it up. Basically, what I wanted to be able to do was to never be in the situation where if I had a set of chord changes put in front of me, that I would be, I'd seize up and I wouldn't know what to do. When I was at music college, some of my worst experiences and most horrible feelings were where you're in ensemble class and everyone's going to take a solo, and you've only seen the standard or the chord changes that day or last week maybe, but it's very often on the day, and you have to go through and play this stuff at sight and improvise on it. And the feeling of having the guy who's taking the class point to you and say, it's your solo, and just then having absolutely nothing. Just wanting the earth to open up and swallow you, because you just cannot, you're looking down and you just cannot make sense of what's on the page with what's, where you are on the fretboard. Improvising through chord changes at sight was my goal. So we're going to talk today about all the different ways in which we can approach fretboard visualization. I'm going to talk about the different contexts and different goals that you might have with it. So obviously I'm telling you a bit about mine here and what mine were, and still are to an extent. But it doesn't have to be as deep as wanting to play through difficult chord changes. I think just having a good understanding of the fretboard, good fretboard visualization in general is great for no matter what you're looking to do. So let's just check in with the chat. So hi everyone. So just a quick recap if you just joined the last few minutes. Basically I'm doing a chat and hang and some practice on talking about fretboard visualization. And yeah, this is my jams and drums stream. I'm going to be doing this hopefully weekly. So hi Michael, howdy. You're really enjoying the solo app and the course on the 2-point intervallic method. Oh, right, okay, sure. The Apple Vision Pro. I don't think we are going to do that given the way the Apple Vision has gone. I think, yeah, I certainly can't promise that. But I'm really glad, and thank you very much for using Solo and getting the course. Yeah, it's a little bit surprising. That'd be curious to know, Michael, how are you finding the Apple Vision Pro? Is that something you're really digging? Do you feel like it was worth it? Yeah, feedback on that would be actually interesting. So yeah, so that's the main theme of today's stream. I'm going to be talking about fretboard visualization, but if anyone watching, if you've got any questions, if you've got any, if you want to talk about anything else other than that, really this is just for me to sort of anchor and have some kind of focus, so it's not totally rambling. But if you want to change the subject, if you want to ask me any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. So what was some of the things that I was doing back in the day? So, looking at myself in the mirror saying you don't know the fretboard. A lot of this came down to real-time application. Sorry, I'm just going to be jumping in. I think the chat live replay is on for this stream, so apologies if I'm sort of breaking out, but I do want to just tackle questions as they come in. So any Undergas guitar, any limitations when using Solo V1 with the course? So the course is really intended for Solo 2 on iOS in terms of being able to do all the exercises for the first 2 chapters. However, you can completely, all of the information, all of the actual tuition is completely applicable. The only things that you can't do if you're doing Android is the handheld specific exercises over the first couple of chapters. So you're welcome to get the course, and if it's as an Android user, if you don't find it useful, if you do feel like it's not right, then you totally get a refund on that. We don't advertise it in that we specifically say in the advertising, it requires, or it's, the iOS version, being as the Android version is not, as of yet, up to 2.0. Yeah, Michael, I understand it might be frustrating for you to hear this. It's literally a box tick for us to do it, but there are sort of bigger reasons beyond as to why we don't want to do that right now. So and it might not be very good for you to hear this, but yeah, we understand it's very easy to do, but there's a more overarching philosophical reasons that I can't go into right now. Yeah, it does seem like as a product, it's definitely not gone the way that I thought it would do. Yeah, but that's cool. You're using it for learning music stuff. It's good stuff. Hey Steve, got to admit I don't know my fretboard as well as I should either. Can completely relate. I have a music degree and teach for a living too. Blagger, hashtag blagger. Yeah, well this is it. I mean, yeah, that's the thing, you know. I think what I've discovered over the last 10 years of teaching, doing Zoom lessons and masterclasses and like meeting so many people, all the varying skill levels, is this is totally common as well. I used to feel like I was the only one in the world. I used to feel like I was the shit one. But it's much more common, especially for guitar, with the way this instrument is designed, and you know, we struggle trying to tackle it mentally and then make sense of it. It's super common issue, and especially I think if you, Steve, I'd be interested to know, where did you do your degree and what music degree was it? I think I had it specifically bad because I went to do a jazz degree, or jazz and contemporary music, which I probably would have been probably okay if I'd have gone to do like pop or something like that, or gone to ACM or whatever it was at the time. But because I went to a music college conservatoire and to do jazz, I kind of set myself up for a really difficult time, in that I was leaving my A-levels with a whole load of shred technique and music theory and doing Bach chorales and whatever, and I was expecting to go to music college to learn jazz, but really it was about going to become great at it. The expectation was that you should already be able to do it, because they weren't going to teach it to you. You were just going to be in an environment where other people were really good at doing it, and that was supposed to be enough so really the fault lies with, I should have never, if that's the standard, if that's what was actually the case, I should have never been, you know, accepted. But music colleges want those numbers and want that money, don't they? So and that was back when it was like, you know, super cheap by comparison for me. These days, man, it's a whole other subject though. Yeah, so I think it's a common thing, as to like people that are, maybe you grew up as a blues guy, grew up as a shredder, you wanted to try and get into sort of changes playing or maybe jazz, and just really struggled because of that. Your visualization was so disconnected from that style of music. Yumi, hi David, picked up one of Tom's legato courses. In it, it teaches using 3-note per string scales. I actually noticed at this point in my life I'm pretty averse to 3-note per string. Was wondering if that was something that's inherent to the kind of legato you guys use. I don't want to speak for Tom here, but I know that a lot of the sort of structure and the rails and the scaffolding that Tom uses in those excellent, I mean, they're the gold standard for learning to do it. That's how I learned to do it in those courses. He uses 3-note per string, I mean, because that's just largely how the technique falls. But also there's tons of like 3-1 or 2-1. I think largely the way how legato, just the inherent nature of legato is that you're going to have, you know, you're either going to have a single note, 2 notes, or sort of 3 or more notes, I guess. In terms of per string, it's just it's going to be sort of sequential. It's just inherent to the kind of thing, really. What do you mean averse to 3-note per string? I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. I use the keyboard. Steve, you use the keyboard music lessons for teaching theory. Degree was in popular music. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, do you feel like, don't want to get too deep and personal here, do you feel like you struggled or suffered because of the lack of the fretboard, or was it commensurate with what was required for your degree? So for me, personally, like my fretboard knowledge and visualization was nowhere near what was required for the style of music I was being thrust into at 18, 19 years old. So I think that's the real rub of it. Maybe if I'd have gone to do a popular music degree, it would have been sort of the level where it would have been more applicable to that sort of thing. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm on the Kilhoman Cool Point. Not sure how to pronounce it, but that's what we're drinking today. Kilhoman, I think is how I pronounce it. Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, on the Scottish pronunciation. What else? We've got comments here. Okay, so you, me again. So I just say a verse because when I've drilled it, it never comes out in my improv. The stretching feels uncomfortable, and for some reasons it's harder to remember the positions. I prefer the classical style scales where you slide or shift. Oh, right. So you're talking, Yumi, about like playing like this kind of a thing, like doing like a G major scale like this. Or, I don't know, those are still kind of 3-note per string though. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what you mean. But yeah, for me, 3-note per string, it's never exactly 3-note per string when I'm doing that stuff. It's always going to have some element of arpeggio-based nature where we might do like... So it's interspersed like arpeggios with scale type lines, I think is the approach that I gravitate to and enjoy. So Steve's reading in theory is encouraged, but I tried to blag my way through everything by ear. Huge mistake in hindsight. Well, that depends on how good your ears are. I mean, yeah, I mean, 3-note per sorry, I'll change the subjects here. So yeah, your ears are like, if your ears are good enough, you know, if you think about so many of our heroes, you know, they don't really, so many of my favorite guitar players, you know, were not particularly well versed in theory or, you know, not visualizing stuff, but, you know, had amazing ears and made it work. And I think that, you know, there are some incredible players, modern players today that fall into that camp as well. Unfortunately, I don't know about yourself, but my ears were never like golden from the get-go. And because I was like struggling with quite a complex style of music, doing jazz, it was like, I was always pedaling uphill and, you know, just sort of treading water and never quite feel like anything really clicked fast enough for me to gain a foothold. The thing about fretboard visualization, and I think like the visual nature of this, is that I think it really helps the ears. So I think it can really train things. But if you learn, like, especially with the 2-point system that we're going to talk about in a little bit, Tom and I teach in the course, I think by learning what a 3 looks like, all of those ways in which I can visualize the 3 from a C here, like I can really learn over time, learn to hear that as well. And then it starts to be a little bit more predictive, like when I'm looking at my hand and I can sort of see an intervallic shape, I can kind of hear then what that note is going to sound like in advance going to it. So for me, the kind of the visualization and the ears things kind of work hand in hand, they kind of work in tandem. Which I think was super, when I was working on this stuff really intensely, say about 10 years ago, it was incredibly beneficial because my ears improved as well. But a lot of people can absolutely get by without even needing to do this stuff if they've got great ears. I just sadly don't fall into that camp. There's, still committed to improving them though. So let's start at the beginning then. So what were the things that I did I do sort of like 10, 12 years ago to kind of get me on the first rung of the ladder? So I've explained and laid out where I was in terms of I could play a lot of Steve Vai solos, I had a lot of music theory, I could work out what the notes were on the fretboard very quickly. But here's the crucial difference, and maybe this is what Corey Wong was getting at in his sort of like challenge video, and John Cordy was talking about in his original video, is that really there's a difference between knowing it really quick and working it out really quick and being able to instantly just have this map of wherever you are of exactly what the notes are instantly with zero hesitation. So this is kind of hard to demonstrate, but I want to show you just kind of like where I'm at with it right now in terms of when I look down at the fretboard, what am I seeing, how am I seeing it, and just how quickly is it occurring to me? Because what I'm not doing, and this is really, really important to stress, is that I'm not working it out from any other note. So when I look at the fretboard, I see every single note with equal knowledge, if you like. I'm not looking at any note and having to use another note to work it out very quickly. That's a total fine, really useful hack, and to learn to do this. In fact, John Cordy goes through this and shows this really excellently in his video, where you might use an octave shape to work out what the notes are. So if I'm playing an A here, most people can do this. They can find an octave like this, and then if you're on the D string, you could find an octave like this. So therefore, that means that this A note here, the octave, or this A note, they're always going to be dependent on something else. So you're using as a crutch or an anchor in order to know what something is, somewhere else on the fretboard. And that, to me, I realized very early on in the journey of my rebuild here, was not going to be good enough. It wasn't going to be fast enough for real-time application of like improvising and having really deep knowledge. So my knowledge is that if I look at the B string, I just see what all the notes are. If I look at the D string, the G string, I just see what all the notes are at any given time. I'm going to show you some stuff with the solo app in a little bit as to how you can practice this, but where I'm at right now is that if I was to just play random notes, and this is kind of hard to do, it's hard to demonstrate, but I'm just going to play random notes and just say them out loud. So I could go like A flat, F sharp, E, B flat, A, F, C sharp, C, E, F, A, F, E, B, F sharp, E flat, B flat, A flat, C, D flat, B, E flat, G, B flat, D, E flat, A flat, B flat, G, F. So I'm just playing random nonsense. I'm just playing random, trying to be as random as I can, and then just vocalizing out loud what the notes are as I'm playing it. F sharp, B, G sharp, G, E, C, B flat, E flat, E, E flat, D, G, F, F sharp, A flat, G. So I'm tracking this so quickly, and it's not even that there's zero hesitation. It's just I just see it. It's literally lit up. All of the note names and the enharmonics are completely ingrained all over the fretboard, no matter where I am. And I know the only delay here, the only hesitation is just the vocalization of spitting it out. If I play something that's, I won't play A tonally, I'll just play in some kind of pitch. But if let's say it was to just play in sort of A Dorian. You can stop me at any point when I'm playing this, and I know exactly what note I'm playing, the note letter, and also in the context of that, exactly what interval I was hitting as well. Now, usually at this point, somebody will ask the question, or raise the question of like, well, are you literally thinking of that in the moment? Like, when you're playing, when you're improvising, when you're trying to be creative, are you actually thinking about this stuff? And of course the answer is no. You work on this stuff at the front of your mind in the practice room, very slowly over deep, long periods of time, and eventually that then comes out in your playing through the back of your mind. So when I'm improvising, when I'm playing and jamming and trying to be creative, I'm not like consciously calling this stuff out. It's just stuff that seeps to the back of the mind over time. So, I'll just dip into some questions, comments. Yumi, I noticed that too. Every time I try to figure out a note on the D string, I always look at the E string. Yeah, there you go, man. So that's my point. So if you're doing that, then that's probably what Mr. Wong is telling you, looking down the camera and telling you off for, is like, well, yeah, you're utilizing, you're utilizing a crutch, and that's a great learning tool, and it's a great pathway to learn what the notes are on the D string. But in the heat of battle, when you're at the coalface and you're having to actually make use and apply this stuff in real time, it's probably not going to be fast enough for you to do it. Now I say probably because I think this is where context can come into it. So the context bit is, I think, for more complex musics like maybe jazz, fusion, or kind of like changes-based playing, anything where you're trying to be more harmonically kind of accurate, it's probably, I would say it's not going to be fast enough. It definitely wasn't fast enough for me to use these anchor points to do this. If you are largely a pop, blues, rock type player where you're kind of very diatonic and there's very little notes that are outside of a main scale, one main scale in your kind of playing, maybe it will be quick enough. Maybe you can utilize the sort of pentatonics, sort of the bulk 3-note per string shapes, plus working out notes fast like that, to be able to target certain things. But for me, it wasn't ever going to be fast enough to or instinctive enough, intrinsic enough to be useful for my context. So that's the first thing to say, is that where I'm at with this is that I can look down at the fretboard and have instant access to every single note, be it a natural note or a sharp or a flat. And obviously that's really important too. I want to be able to see that all of my F sharps are also my G flats. So you have to practice that, I find. Never rely on the fact that, just because I've learned and visualized where all my F sharps are, don't think that automatically means that you're going to have equal access to your G flats. It's the weird quirk of the way the brain works, is the way we catalog and sort of mentally, put this into our mental compartment, is that in the context of an F sharp, you're going to see these. You change it to G flat on the page and you're looking at that, and it can completely go out the window in that you won't recognize. You have to learn twice, if you like, that this note is an F sharp and it is also a G flat. So those are the ways you can do it. You can use like anchor points of octaves to find it. You could practice it all on one string, like the demonstration in Corey Wong's video and the way that John Corley was teaching it. The way that I did it back in the day, so this was like 10, 12 years ago, obviously I didn't have the solo out back then. I didn't have the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course back then. So what I did was I used a few different methods. The first one, I've got a whole like edited YouTube video lesson coming out on it over the next, maybe sometime in the next week or 10 days. So I'm not going to go too deep into it now, because this will be an actual produced video lesson that you can watch later on. But what I decided to do, I realized that the bulk of my problems with not knowing this stuff came down to, well, actually I'll rephrase that. So the way that I tackled it was to basically learn where all of the white notes were on the guitar. So all these sort of natural notes, the white notes of the piano. So I learnt that in like certain positions, so like between frets 4 and frets 9, just where all of the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C's were. And then once I got that, what I did is I took it around the cycle of fifths, introducing one sharp at a time or one flat at a time, And also what an amazing side side effect and bonus for doing it that way is that you're learning all of where all the notes fall on the fretboard for all of the 12, more major scales. And that I find, being as the major scale is like the blueprint that we use for everything else in music and talking about and understanding everything else in music. And it's the blueprint and the anchor for the 2-point system with visualization for intervals. Like that to me was an incredibly useful thing to have knowledge of, to just know that, in the scale of B flat major, the 6th is a G, or in the scale of F sharp, the 3rd is an A sharp, or in the scale of E flat, the 4th is an A flat, and have that instant knowledge again of like, not just where the notes fall, but in the major key or the major scale, what are the notes for that scale? Because then you can manipulate that, and it's like the building blocks for all of music, I find. So the side effect of practicing it that way, and the in-depth video produced lesson will teach you this specifically, but the side effect is that I can look down at the fretboard and not just know what all the notes are, but in the context of C major, or the context of D major, or whatever, any of the major scales, I can improvise and play completely freely in that scale, that major scale, without having to resort to a single shape or scale pattern. And it completely freed me from being dependent upon having to think of boxes or 3-note per string or caged or anything. So I can just, it's like a purity thing. It's like I can just see from, if I know what notes are in the scale and I know where those notes fall on the fretboard, I don't have to then, I'm not shackled to big patterns, to big scale shapes. Obviously, big scale shapes are good for building speed, they're good for vocabulary and language and stuff, but definitely it's something that I wanted to have as my bedrock. I wanted this pure foundation of all of my major scales and all of my pure note names. I wanted to be able to see them on the fretboard completely separate from any kind of guitarist shape. So if I just pick a scale, if I just pick a key, if I think of B flat, so if I think of B flat major, if I look down at the fretboard, I can see, well, obviously my root notes, so my B flats. But everything from that then, I can dial in all of the other notes. So B flat, F, A, E flat, D, G, F, G, D, C, B flat, A, E flat, D, C, B flat, A, G, F, A, B flat. So when I'm playing, all of that stuff is in the back of my mind. I've worked on it. Oh, Lydian. So, but if you stop me at any point, I know I'm on a D, C, D, E flat, A, B flat, D, F, G, B flat, F, E, D, C, A, B flat, G, E flat. So I know that in B flat major, I've got a B flat and an E flat. All the others are natural notes. And then I can just see where they all fall on the fretboard. So that was the first thing that I did. I would learn where all of the white notes fall in any given position. So let's say between frets 4 and 9. And then gradually go around the cycle of fifths, introducing one sharp at a time or one flat at a time and going the other way. Then do it in another position, like frets 4 to frets 1 to 5, and then frets 9 to 13, say. And then like I say, that would give me all of the knowledge for all the major scales as well, of the core building blocks, the foundation, the blueprints for everything else that we work out music from. So that was the initial thing that I did. The other things that I did was to basically just try and put up a random set of chords, get a random chord chart. And this was kind of like the proto beginnings of the solo app, if you like, was to get a random chord progression. And I was using the iReal app. In fact, I can show you what I would do. There's another live stream I'm going to do on this subject, using iReal, but on a different subject. So let me see if I can switch here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so ignore that it says giant steps, but it doesn't really matter. So what I would do is I would take something like iReal, and then I would just choose a random, just a random set of chord changes, and then just try to find playing the root notes. So it didn't matter what the chord was, doesn't matter what the scale is. I'm not looking at that. I'm just looking for random sets of root notes to find. So I'd do that, and then just completely out of time, out of context, just try to play the root notes through as fast as I could. So D, A, D, D, G, D, G, E, A, F, B flat, E flat, E, A, D, E, A, D, A. And then one of the things you can do with all of these exercises is force yourself and limit yourself to certain parameters. So if I wanted to make this super challenging, you know, I could do different things. So I could do it just solely on one string at a time. So I can go like, so like D, A, D, D, G, D, G, E, A, F, B flat, E flat, E, A, so on, yeah? More likely what I used to do, what I would practice, is to define myself into a set of frets. So, and then it's maybe in a certain octave, or force myself, you know, if I've already played one note in one octave, force myself to play a different octave, things like that. So let's say I give myself the parameters, let's choose a different thing because there's a lot of D's in that. Let's do some, Panonica will be a fun one, yeah. So again, ignore the fact of what the song is or the chords, or that it doesn't matter. We're just looking for random notes here. This is going to be really useful for you Android users that are using the Solo app and the course, or even if you don't have the course, you just want to practice this stuff, because Solo for Android currently doesn't have the note trainer in it that we're going to look at. So this is some of the stuff that you can use as an Android user to you know, still the stuff that I did, you know, back in the day. So yeah, let's do this. So I'm going to define myself into the parameters between frets 4 and frets 9, and then yeah, I'll see how I go. So I've got C, E flat, A flat, D, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, F, E flat, A flat, G, D flat. To the B section here, so G, C, C, F, G flat, B, D, G, C, G, C, B, E, A, D, G, C, E flat, A flat, D, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, F, E flat, A flat, G, D, D, G, D flat. And the other thing you might notice is that I'm vocalizing these out loud. I'm like just constantly always saying it. Now, one of the things I've missed out here is that I would actually look at my hand when I was doing the other exercises. Obviously, if I'm reading a chart, I have to be looking at the chart. But if I was doing when I was doing like around the cycle of fifths, learning where all of the natural notes are, this is really important. I would look at my hand and spit out loud. I would say it out loud: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So I'm looking and I'm saying. That's super important. Oh, double. That's interesting. There we go. So that's another really useful exercise. There's 2 useful exercises, I think, there. Anyone got any questions on any of that? I've spoken for a long time. I'm going to dip in with the comments now. And why do I call that C Dorian instead of B flat major? Because it's about the context of what my mind or where my ears are hearing. So if I'm over like a C minor 7 type chord, that pool of notes is a C Dorian. It's not, I mean, it's the same pool of notes as B flat major, but the context is defining it. as B flat major. If there's no context, you absolutely, you could have been hearing it as B flat major. So grey colours, it just came to my mind that maybe it would be easier and beneficial to learn note names by removing every other string. When you want to learn notes on the D string, remove the other string. Oh, do you mean literally taking the strings off? I personally don't think that would work for me. Some very weird things happen if you change the number of strings. Like I don't know if you ever tried to play a 7 or an 8 string. It's almost like starting over. It's so weird, the physicality of the context nature, the physical nature of the guitar. I think that would not be helpful for me. Michael, so the trick to learn the fretboard is to work on it consistently for a long time with diligence and intention. That is the trick. Who would have thunk it? You just have to do the work. Yumi, I just bought the course. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Hopefully you use the code. Make sure you use the code. Just by the way, I'll just mention it again. I should mention this a few times. We're running a massive discount of $60 off on the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization course right now. So this is the Uber course that Tom Quayle and I put together on the 2-point system that we've developed over a number of years and use for improvising and playing through changes, etc. That's available at the link below, and you can get $60 off using the coupon code BBLive25 at checkout. That's the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization course. It's about 5 hours worth of video content. It's really useful. It's primarily designed for those of you that have got Solo 2.0 for iOS. It's not officially recommended for the Android users yet, but if you wanted to check it out, then you could always get a refund on that if you felt like it wasn't too useful for you. But yeah, we say it requires the iOS just so you can basically do all of the exercises in the first 2 chapters. But all of the core information and all of the tuition is completely there in terms of the system and learning the system. It's just the exercises that you can't do yet on the Android version. So yeah, BB Live 2025, code at checkout, and you get the $60 off the course. Okay, so oops, banging the. Do you guys give, Yumi continues, do you guys give instructions like you should be able to do X this fast before moving on or something like that for the exercises? We do actually talk about that. There's a chapter in there, dig into it. We talk about the structure, the pace of how you might want to move on, when you might want to move on. Broadly speaking, not to repeat myself, you're about to watch me talk about this in the course when you watch it, but it's something that you do. It's not like you've got to complete each thing and master it before you move on. You've got to have a good grasp of it. You've got to build it into your practicing, but there are certain core things like knowing the note names. That's kind of like the root note stuff that we do a lot of work on. But it's not like you've got to be as good as I am at it now before you can move on to the interval stuff. It's just stuff you have to kind of work on sort of in tandem and in parallel, and you're going to know your own sort of workflow and mental bandwidth in order to how to successfully do that. It's different for everybody, and it's something that is not a one-size-fits-all. But just the nature of just how big the course is and just how much we're covering, and just the completeness of the system, it would be impossible. It would be totally pointless to say you've got to practice this for 70 hours or 100 hours before you can move on. That doesn't work really, in my experience. It doesn't work that way. Nick Granville, how's it going, mate? Yeah, thanks. Things are okay. Things have been, I was just saying at the start of the stream, it's been a very tough few months. The last 4 or 5 months have been very, very tough. One thing after another. Health-wise, family-wise, just life getting in the way. Yeah, but so my year doesn't feel like it's really started until now, March really. It's been, I really don't feel like I've been able to get going. So hopefully, yes, it's going to be, things are going to improve. Yeah, Michael, that's what the Apple Vision Pro is really good for, putting the music sheets right next to the fretboard. I put RL next to me on friends, so they're very cool. My wife's got a MetaQuest 3 and it is very good fun. It really makes me get very excited about how good the Vision Pro would be, how much better it would be, but I just could never justify it. I bought her the MetaQuest for a birthday last year, and for like 500 quid, it's like, it was doable and to kind of play with, and she actually really uses it a lot and enjoys it. But the Vision Pro at 3,500, even as a professional like Apple developer, it just couldn't we just couldn't justify it. As much as believe me, the temptation was there as a business expense, to order 3 Apple Vision Pros for us. But I'm kind of, now looking at the way it's gone, I'm kind of glad we didn't. Hopefully they can change things and, bring the price down, improve the content, etc. But yeah. Andergast Guitar was also looking at your Pathways to Jazz Part 2 course. Any suggestions who each course is best for? Seems to be different, but some overlapping. So I was wondering, so with the Pathways stuff, that was my first initial, Pathways 1 was more of the visualization stuff, the first round of that. So there's still some really useful stuff in there, Pathways 1 for like basic music theory, but it is more basic. It's teaching the exercise I was talking about earlier with the major scale, cycle of fifths, learning all that kind of stuff. So it's the precursor, all of the initial groundwork that I was doing prior to kind of like jamming with Tom and doing the 2-point thing. And then it also does my first go around with the systematizing of the 2-point thing. Pathways 2 is more about like the harmony for like major scale harmony, melodic minor harmony, and kind of like exercises for starting like playing through it. Who it's for, I mean, I'm actually going to probably be discontinuing the Pathways stuff and like doing new courses. So not that I don't stand by the stuff, I think it's very useful, but I think I can have another run at it now. They're several years old, and I've got some better ways in which I can kind of present the same or similar information on a more broad scale that's not just narrowly for, I kind of painted myself into a corner with the jazz title of it. So I think that given the way I play, and I wouldn't call myself a jazz guitarist. I love to play jazz, but I'm not a pure jazz guitarist. So I think there's a better way I can kind of teach that stuff, and it's a bit more broadly. So I'm doing myself out of a sale there, but maybe hang fire and see if I can get round to it this year. But what I would say is that the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course, the collaboration with Tom, I think that is one of the things. Obviously, the app, the solo app, is what I'm most proud of in terms of creating and educationally. But the course comes a very close second. I think what we created with the course in terms of combining our respective thoughts on this, and what we've developed together with it, and the system of the 2-point thing, is so powerful. And the proof really is in me. Like, I couldn't play the way I can now before I started using and thinking of, visualizing intervals with a 2-point system. And so it's kind of like it's a good guinea pig for selling the course, I guess. I guess you'll have to have known me prior to that, but maybe I should do some, I've got some old videos where I used to play like back maybe like 10, 15 years ago. Oh, Steve, thanks for watching, mate. Thanks for dropping in, and catch up with you soon. Oh, your work reimbursed you for the Apple Vision. That's nice. Jason Carter, hi. Nice to see you, man. Hi from Germany. So I guess YouTube doesn't push out the notification. Yeah, who knows? Maybe, are you subscribed and have you got the notifications enabled for my channel, Jason? Maybe check that. And you've got solo and the Fretboard course. Fantastic. Much appreciated. That's great. Yeah, so any other questions anyone's got? Anything else you want me to talk about? I'm going to go on. If not, I'll keep talking about more visualization stuff. Yeah, so where did I get to with all that? So my own journey, I got, I started to turn everything into intervals fairly early on. This was like, with not the specific generic 2-point shapes, but just thinking of like, okay, well, let's say I'm thinking of my B flat, which I was doing before. So rather than then thinking just about the note names, oh, Jason, no, it's not new. It's just, I was talking about two things. So the chord, what I'm mentioning today is just talking about the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course. So presuming that's the one you've already got. If you don't, then you can get and grab it. But then I was also talking about my plans for this year in terms of just what I'm going to do with regards to going forward with the Pathways series. Nick, no. It's the ultimate of ridiculousness, but I'm actually using, this current sound is the FM3. But the quad cortex is my audio interface. So I'm actually running the FM3 through the inputs 3 and 4 of the input, channels 3 and 4 of the quad cortex. So I do have a quad cortex. I just felt like it would be useful to get my foot in that world and to be able to capture my real amps and pedals and things. There are aspects about the quad that I really love, and there are other aspects about the quad that I really dislike. But one of the things that's amazing is the capturing. So I've captured my Friedman, the Morgan, my Deluxe Reverb, and I built some great sounding patches, and I do think the capturing on there is great. The modeling itself, the actual amp models, less so. I really don't think for me, it doesn't do it for me like the fractal stuff. I still, in terms of actual point-to-point modeling, I much prefer the fractal world. But yeah. So I'm using it basically. The cool thing about another cool thing about the quad is that it's got such good I/O and routing. Is that I've got like a little lav mic. This is going into channel 2 here. I've got my FM3 going in as well, and then it's kind of routing and running everything on the quad cortex. So yeah. It's very powerful for routing stuff. I might do a separate stream, like on the technical side of what I'm doing another time. Yeah, the Ultimate Visualization Course is enough to be going on with anyway for life. I think that's somebody else was talking about, the pace of, Yumi was talking about, when to work on things and when to move on from things in the course. And it is a lifelong thing. I think that's one of the chapters we do talk about it like that way. I can't remember if it's me or Tom that mentions it, but one of us says that, you're never finished. Like, you never complete fretboard visualization. It's a skill that you acquire over time for the contexts and styles and genres that you play into in order to express yourself how you want to do it. And you never complete that. So there's never going to be a point where, you kind of hang it up and say, right, I'm done now. And I think if you can learn to enjoy the process, learn to enjoy sitting and living in the moment of experiencing like the enjoyment of finding things slowly in real time, it's so much better than sort of blasting through it and just hoping to sort of get on to the next thing. because it means you can pick up anything else. The core fundamental skills allow you to pick up anything else. So let's say, for example, like right now, so I'm trying to build into my playing the harmonic major, modes of the harmonic major scale. So it doesn't matter if you know what this is or not. The point is, if I know the interval structure of the harmonic major scale and the modes of the harmonic major scale, if I know those interval structures, I can apply that given what's in the course, in the 2-point system course, because the 2-point shapes are the building blocks for everything. So if I know that, my harmonic major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7, then I know how to play that scale instantly without having to learn a big shape. I can just find if I'm on C, there's my 1, there's my 2, there's my 3, there's my 4, here's my 5, here's my flat 6, here's my 7, here's my 1. That's the 7. So I can build this into my vocabulary, my language, and my visualization and my fretboard knowledge over time. And this becomes something that is, I can just work on, in a slow kind of way. So I might practice it like this as well, kind of going off tangent a little bit, but I might practice and think like 3, 1, 3, 2, 1, flat 6, 5, 2, 1, flat 6, 5, 3, 1, flat 6, 3, flat 6, 5, 3, 7, 1. So I would just do that and try and make melodies, come up with sounds within that tonality, just thinking of those intervallic functions. And because I know what all of the intervallic functions themselves look like from anywhere on the fretboard, I can just play and piece together in real time the scale and the tonality. I'm not thinking of my harmonic major scale shapes there. I'm thinking of what are the intervals of harmonic major, and then I'm finding them. And that's ultimately how you learn to play fast as well over time, is that it's like I might, for a very long period of time, just like build with this new sound. So for me, this kind of stuff is so enjoyable, even though it's like not particularly necessarily musical, maybe you might say, but the actual process is of finding this stuff and exploring the sounds is just such an enjoyable thing that I can do this with any harmonic scenario, any harmonic device, and it's a great pleasurable experience. Gemboy777, what's the dram? So this is a Kilhoman Cool Point. So it's an Isla PT whiskey. This was a Christmas present from Tom, in fact. This Christmas just gone. So this one. Very, very tasty. Yeah, so has anyone got any other questions on the note naming, sort of learning the note names so far? And then, or anything, thoughts or observations on what I was talking about? Or anything on the 2-point system itself? Or any other questions at all, feel free to drop them in comments. So the next thing is that John Cordy alluded to this because he tagged me in the video and was talking about, you know, Tom and I and the solo app and the intervals 2-point thing. But really, I think there is a logical progression to, at least to the execution of how well you're going to be able to use the system, because the entire 2-point system within the course, you know, within the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course, it is predicated on that you know where all the root notes are. Now, I'll say it again, you haven't got to be like a master of that, and you don't have to have it perfected, but it stands to reason that we are building our knowledge of where intervals are off of a root note. So the core base, you know, the sort of the substrate of our visualization substrate is has to be that we know where all the root notes are. Yeah, that's really, really important. Then from that point, you'd sort of layer up onto the intervals thing. So what I thought I would do is, this might work, it might not work, is kind of try and show you some of the stuff you can do with the solo app. Gemboy, tend to visualize scales, etc. through shapes, and I find it hard to get out of that. Yes, well, I think that's where ultimately I was talking about. I was talking about the start of the stream. So yeah, this is something that was absolutely shackled me. I was shackled to back prior to hitting the big reset button when I was in my early 30s. To me, it was like, it was something that I had to, this isn't going to be the same for everybody, but for me, I had to kind of just had this mental reset of like, okay, I'm starting over. I'm going to reset my thinking in this. And if that was necessary, given my goals with changes playing and ultimately trying to play jazz type stuff, musics, you might not need to do that. You know, if you are, you know, if your goals are not to sort of play through kind of complex chord changes, you could absolutely just layer on top of your bigger scales, thinking about intervals. You know, like take your larger, let's assume you're talking about 3-note per string scales. Well, just spend some time thinking through what the intervals would be at any given point. You know, if you're playing through a 3-note per string A Dorian, then actually just try to spend some time practicing, thinking, well, what actually are the notes I'm playing, for one, but then more importantly, what are the actual intervals within the scale shape? So if I play through A Dorian and I've got like the root, and this is my 2, this is my flat 3, this is my 4, my 5, my 6, my flat 7, my 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, and so on. Now, however, don't think this way. I didn't actually do a proper 3-note per string scale there. But the point is that, you know, you could take whatever larger structure that you know and layer on top of it the stuff that we cover in the, you know, the 2-point system, and think about what these things are as intervals. And you could practice using the solo app. It's what I'm going to try and show you now, actually. I think that's worked. Hey, Stacey, good to see you. Yes, exactly. Can you all see, can you see that on the screen? Can you see my phone? Let me know if you can still see me or you can see the phone. Okay, I think I can put my ugly face back on as well. I've got quite a complex stream setup going on today, but where am I? Aha! Oh, it's very overexposed for some reason, but there we go. And you can see the hairs on there. Okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's a lovely phone. It's actually quite an old one now. I really should, as a professional app developer, I really should get a latest phone. Okay, Jason, sorry if you've mentioned this already, but I see episode 1 in the title. Will you be making this a regular thing? I'm committing myself to doing this. So long as I'm not gigging on a Sunday, I'm going to commit to doing this every Sunday, doing a live stream. Yeah, jams and drams. So hang out, talk guitar, play guitar, and have a whiskey. It's my treat for the week. Chris H, coming in late. Anyway, you could do a summary before you end the live stream. Pretty pleased with the sugar on top. I'll try and recap. I'll try and do a bit of a summary. However, this will be up and I'm not deleting it. You can watch this after, Chris, if you want to rewatch it. It's not going to go anywhere. You can watch it on catch up. Stacey, that's a good question. I'm pretty sure it does. Or at least the beta versions that we've been working on lately do. Yes. Bear with me a second. I'm going to answer that in real time. Still got my set list on set list on the iPad from last night. Where is it? Solo. I wasn't. Yes, it does. Yeah. So yeah, when we kind of changed it all over to Swift UI, it's actually much easier to get it working in landscape now on the iPad. So hopefully that helps you, Stacey. Okay, so let's tune up a bit. Yeah, Chris, just I'm not deleting it. It's just the course, the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course. The $60 discount is only going to be valid for the duration of the stream. Should mention that again, shouldn't I really? And for maybe an hour or so after the end of the stream, just to give you a chance if you want to pick it up with a discount. Nice, it's just all my other apps are that way and I'm a lazy bitch. No, totally, I'm a lazy bitch too. I think I think whatever works. It actually looks quite nice now on the iPad in both modes as well. We've spent a bit of time trying to get it to look a bit nicer. Jason says, Solo works much better for me with an audio interface. Takes away any worry about the background noise. Yes, it does. And ordinarily, I would use an audio interface, but my tech setup right now is already so complex. There's no way I'm going to be able to also route it into the iPhone to use it. So we just, for this demonstration now, what I'm going to be doing for this teaching part, I'm just going to, if it doesn't work, if I'm getting some false positives or whatever, it's just tough. Usually I think the algorithm we've got now, the engine, the note recognition engine is pretty good. If it's calibrated right, which I have calibrated, it should be pretty good. So long as I don't talk too much, because that will obviously confuse it. So Nick, any new Giant Steps stuff you'd like to share? You know me, love me some Giant Step stuff. Yes, let's we will finish with giant steps. I can't do a live stream and not play giant steps, can I? I think I play it on every single one. Maybe I could apply some of this stuff. Maybe I'll try and apply everything to giant steps as a proof in the pudding that you don't need to understand. I don't know. Well, let me do the this note finding stuff and interval stuff first, and then we'll nerd out on some giant steps to finish. So yeah, you can see the phone, you can see me. So one of the really cool things now that you guys have in terms of learning to learn the note names on the fretboard is this ability to use the Solo app with Solo version 2. Sorry, Android guys, we don't have it available on Android yet, but for Solo on iOS, iPad, iPhone, Mac, we have the note trainer and the interval trainer, the intervallic function trainer. So the note trainer, these were like the kind of missing pieces, if you like, for getting people onboarding to the 2-point system. So the note trainer is really quite simple in that when you run it, it's just telling you to find an A, find a D, find a G, etc. Now it's picking that up because I'm not plugged in through an audio interface, so my voice is going to trigger it. But if I don't talk and if I do it, when I'm demonstrating in just a moment, you'll see it's really effective. And you can like put limitations on, and you can give yourself like, parameters and guidelines. It's really quite simple in that it's basically just asking you for notes and it's listening for it and moves on for you to find another one. And then you can limit yourself to then just finding, as quickly as you can, or as slow as you can. So at any point as well, you can slide on the fretboard and study it if you need to see where they all fall. But I'm not going to do that just now. Oh, maybe I will. Maybe I'll put it on and go after let's say 1 second. Okay. Oh, I should say, I'm just going to work between frets 4 and 9. This is my favorite zone of the whole guitar, really, between frets 4 and 9. And yeah, just going to do some practice. I'll try to not play the same things over and over again. So if I've played a note in one octave and that note comes up again, I'll try to remember to force myself to go to a different octave. So D flat. It's the enharmonics I was talking about earlier. Now, solo is not like it's sort of, it's agnostic as to the octave, which is why you need to be on top of that yourself. You can put on some reminders there for practice suggestions. So this is saying, try finding all the notes on the lowest 3 strings between frets 4 and 8. And that's going to force you, no, it's not going to, it won't enforce this, but you will have to force yourself to do it, to stick with those parameters then. Yeah, so that's something to work on. And that, I think, is an incredibly powerful tool in terms of learning. I wish, if I'd have had that as a tool to practice with back sort of 10, 12 years ago, it would have been phenomenal in terms of the utility and like the power of learning. Michael, one cool feature to add to the scales portion would be to multiples. For instance, if you want to do 2 octaves of the pattern or shape, it would be nice if that be set to have. Okay. So yeah, I mean, if you could drop that in an email to us in a support thing or something, that would be. If you've got suggestions like that, that would be awesome. We are actually making some notes at the moment on where the scale trainer is going to be pushed forward and things we can improve on. So that's a good point. So yeah, that's the note trainer that you could do. And I think if you force yourself into certain parameters, into certain zones of the fretboard on certain strings, then it really is a very thorough way of I think, goes a long way to mastering really where these note names are. Certainly in combination with everything I was talking about from the beginning of the stream, you know, with the methods that I was using back when I first started doing this, sort of 10, 12 years ago. Yeah. So the next thing that you could do with this is to, like, I don't know if I've done this on a live stream before, but with the interval trainer, this is the crown jewel, if you like, of the solo app now in terms of version 2. All of this stuff, all of what's being like asked for here in terms of training the 2-point system, you can totally get from just using the changes trainer and the scale trainer. So if you're a solo for Android user, you can still get all the benefit of learning the system, but it's more implied and subtle under the hood, if you like. What we did with the interval trainer was to really call it out explicitly as to what's going on. So in isolation, you can choose what interval function you want to work on, and then what root note you want to work on. And then it's going to just ask for those in succession. You can either have it asking you for the root note first, so you have to play the root note first, so you visually see and call out the shape, you know, physically and mentally and orally as well, if you want to say it. Or you can turn it off, and then you're just going to be asked to find the root and play the intervallic function. And it's still going to show you the root note, but it's not listening for the root note. It's only then listening for the intervallic function. So this I find as an incredible, again, it's not entirely, obviously, it's not a musical thing here, but as a raw tool for practicing the system and, you know, in isolation, it's extremely useful. But you can make it more musical. If you go into intervallic functions, there's a little thing we added as a 2.1 update, I think it was. So there's interval presets here, where you can, like, say, let's say you wanted to practice visualizing certain contexts or harmonic areas. I could go to like chords and then like see like major, I don't know, let's say like major 7 sharp 5, and it's going to pre-load then the intervals of what would come up for that chord into the intervallic trainer. So then when I pull that down and start doing this, it's going to be randomizing those intervals that make up that chord from an A here. Yeah, so you can make it slightly more context-based by doing that in the interval trainer. But I like to just go crazy, select all. Let's choose a static root note for now. Let's do a D. So I'm just visualizing there, just trying to force myself to move between choosing ascending intervallic functions, descending intervallic functions, and I'm just trying to find them as quickly as I can. So that's that was the other thing that John Cordy was talking about when he was referring to, you know, Tom and I, how we use this 2-point system to go on from after we know the note names, how we can extend that on a very sort of powerful geometric based level. You've seen like the raw geometry of harmony and, or, you know, on the fretboard. Yeah, so that's some of the stuff you can do with solo for learning your note names too. And something I'd not done on a live stream before, so I just wanted to like show you guys some of that. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to change back to this. How do I get this off? My little switcher thing's not working. There we go. So my good friend Nick Granville nicely set me up and baited me into some giant steps playing. So I'm going to do some actual practice now, where I'll do some talking, but probably going to put some of this stuff into practice with giant steps. Hi Adam, how's it going, man? So let's see if I can do this. For some reason that makes me it's not overexposed on this angle. There we go. So Nick Granville was mentioning, asking, I've not got anything necessarily new, but yeah, just going to do some practice on it. Why not? So why don't I try and do this, put into practice some of the stuff I've been talking about. So I could just use this purely, and this is a good one in fact, because of the sort of key center approach that it's kind of going through. I could just try and play the root notes smoothly as possible. So I could go like B, D, G, B flat, E flat, A, D, G, B flat, E flat, F sharp, B, F, B flat, E flat, A, D, G, C sharp, F sharp, B, F, B flat, E flat, C sharp, F sharp, B. Okay, so you could do that. You could do it completely out of time. I sort of fell into doing some sort of time-based stuff there, but you could do it completely as slow out of time as you like. But that would be, and then also force the parameters. So I could just say I'm going to stay just in the first 4 frets. I've gone out of the 4 frets. I'm actually pretty bad at forcing myself into limitations these days, unless I'm doing something new, not practicing what I preach. But yeah, so that would be one thing, is just to utilize the actual root note movement, just to find, practicing your root notes. So yeah, what else would I say on for this next? So yeah, thanks man. Yeah, it's been a challenging one, but all good. So I could put on, actually, in fact, I think I can play this. Hopefully you'll hear this. Let me know if you can hear the backing track or not. Should be able to hear a very terrible I-reel backing straight 8s. So what I'm doing now is just forcing it into time, finding the root notes. Ah, nice one. Now I might find the thirds. So I'm using the 2-point system here to find my appropriate thirds for each chord. So I'm still only playing 1 note per chord, but I'm visualizing the 3. So there's the 3 of B, flat 3 of F minor, 3, So I'm sort of like putting into real time the solo app. Like now I might find the 5, so I'm finding all the 5s for each chord, just one note per chord. Challenge. I mean, obviously Giant Steps is a fast tune. I'm not doing it fast, but I'm being really articulate and defining, being very clear with what I'm playing. So I'm very conscious about this. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And to do this, I'm sort of mentally aware of where the root note is, and then I'm using the 2-point shape in order to know where that 5 is. Now like I say, because I know all of my major scales, I can do this with note names as well. However, you don't have to do that, and I probably would recommend, if you're doing the 2-point system, to not do that, beyond the major scale. You moving into intervals. But as a demonstration, I can do it with note names. So F sharp, C, F, B flat, E, so I'm saying the note name of the 5 of each chord now. And vocalizing out loud is probably one of the most powerful things that I learned to do, or that I forced myself to do. Because guitar players, we tend to have this tendency to switch our brain off and just let the fingers do the moving and the talking. Whereas if you say it out loud, if you force yourself to vocalize it, Wadey. How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Very kind. If you force yourself to say it out loud, your mind can't wander. It has to kind of be conscious about what you're doing. C, 5, F, B flat, G sharp, 8, C sharp. Okay. So all I'm doing there, obviously it's not super interesting yet, but we're going to build it up to become more interesting. So that's basically going through like solos, single chord tone levels, just finding that, but I'm applying that in real time to a backing track. So this is something that you probably wouldn't do unless until you've already maybe spent a bit of time like doing knowing the 2-point system, knowing your root notes. I'm just practicing for my own sake here. Well, yeah, somewhere in between like real practice and teaching. So the next thing you could do is to stretch it into 2 notes, or 3 notes, or 4 notes, or the full-blown chord tones. I might actually just skip ahead into doing maybe just doing 4 notes per bar. Maybe that might be work. Hand Duff, Spoonerisms. That's a good username. Sorry to miss this. You'd have to apologise. I'm sorry you weren't notified. It's been already an hour. Is that how long I've been streaming already? Where is it? Oh, it's been 1 hour 40. Wow. I definitely can't go too much longer. So this is so much fun. I forget how much fun these things are to do. But yeah, I'm going to try and do it more often. Okay, so let's move into doing 4 chord tones per bar. So I'm only going to play chord tones for each of the chords, and I'm going to play 4 notes in a bar. And this is where it starts to be, I'm sort of like painting the harmony. I'm sort of like, it's not musical yet, it's not going to be any language yet, it's not going to be anything exciting, but it will be improvised painting of the harmony. hard to limit myself. It's good though. I should do this. So yeah, obviously I was not limiting myself. I was just started improvising and spaffing more over that halfway through. It's just my favourite thing in the world to do though. It's so much fun playing through changes like that. Comments. I might have to start winding down soon, guys. I do think this is cool though. So one of the things that was preventing me from doing these regular live streams, practice streams, was wanting you to be able to see what I'm looking at. And I think I figured this out. I think I figured out a cool way of doing it. So if I'm using something like iReel, you're able to track and follow along with where I'm playing. So I know I'm not teaching an aspect of it right now, but it's definitely something that I think from a teaching perspective, when I do more of these and I'm teaching the harmony and sort of how I'm thinking and playing through things, the fact that you can follow along with the chart on the screen as I'm playing, I think is going to be really useful. So I figured out a way with the streaming setup to be able to do that. Okie dokie, where are we? Jason's mesmerized. Yeah. So using solo for 1 week. Yeah. I wish solo was around when I was learning to do this stuff. Solo, the idea to make solo, that came from a infamous car journey now that Tom and I took together back from the London Guitar Show. And it's one of those things where, it wasn't a particularly inspiring guitar show that we left early and had this chat on the way back about, how we play and practice and think about this stuff. And it's it's just one of those things that it came out and was born out of that desire for wishing there was something like this in order for it to help me obsess over it. Obviously, I'm nowhere near the guitar player that Tom is, and I'm many years down, coming up behind in terms of trying to improve. But largely the goals in terms of the obsessions, I have now or had, 5-7 years ago, were similar to, that he had through music college. He had the obsession at the right time. Even when he was at music college, it took me many years too late to find that. I'm very glad I did in the end. So I wish it existed back then. Relaxing. Thanks, Jace. Are you going to muscle memory trained licks from your own lick library? That's something to me to understand in the longer run. Thanks for the great stuff you put out. No, it depends on what you mean by licks. There are, of course, repetitive, familiar fragments that I play over and over again, but they come out in a very flexible, manipulable way, where every note has been thought about subconsciously. That's the difference, I think. Because if I was to just learn a lick, like let's just say I learn that's one of the phrases from Giant Steps. That's a piece of language. Now, I can understand that from a language point of view, intervalically, harmonically, what it's doing. That's when it becomes manipulable, or it can become manipulable. But if I was to just learn it from the tab and I didn't understand it and I couldn't manipulate it, then I would have to trigger that muscle lick, is what I think you're talking about. So then it becomes, and it's all dependent on, everything is dependent on one another. So if I was to mess up the start of the lick, I probably couldn't continue it, or I couldn't finish it, or I couldn't start it halfway through. So that's often a good test as to whether something is really known, as to how can you start it midway through, can you change it in real time on the fly. So for me, it's about it's about doing. I've just seen a comment that's really got me excited. I'll come back. Yes, Gem Boy, in a moment. So I think often people think, when they hear me playing fast and playing they think it's a predetermined, it's got a start point and end point and I have to play it the same every time. That's not the case. What I've done is, I don't know if you caught all of that handoff, but I started off by playing it very, very, very slow. In fact, let me demonstrate it. This should work, the process of me playing fast and slow is identical, really. It's just whether it's going on here in the forefront or the back of my brain. I've programmed very slowly little tiny chunks of very intentional, consciously thought about lines or so. So I'm just doing like quarter notes here. Now as I speed it up, if I take it to triplets, I've played all of this stuff before, but I couldn't tell you what lick it was. And at any point you can stop me and I can tell you exactly what note I'm on, exactly what interval I'm on, exactly how it's functioning in the piece, in the progression. That is going on in the back of my brain, but if you stop me and say, what is it? I can bring it to the front of my brain instantly. So really, as I take it through the gears, nothing changes other than the conscious aspect or subconscious aspect. See, I've done, I can't describe to you how many hours I've done this for. So I mean, it's hard to put to like really put the quantity into things that you can sort of comprehend. But I mean, I've probably done giant steps alone for hundreds of hours, maybe thousands of hours, just going through this progression super slowly, like just finding intervals and playing with the harmony, and like it's terrifying how bad I am at it, considering how much I've practiced. That's the depressing part. I should be like way better because of the amount I've practiced it. I mean, I'm kind of half joking, half being serious, but it's to reiterate the point of just how much I've put, this stuff takes. Somebody earlier in the comments mentioned about it being like, something that it's a lifelong thing, and the secret trick, the secret hack is to practice it for a long time with diligence and intention. And it's absolutely true. It's funny because it's true, Nick visited the Fibonacci booth at NAMM. Oh, fantastic. I was gutted that I couldn't go this year. It was, family emergencies. Those guys are amazing indeed. Yeah, the guitars are fantastic. And Jason, yes, I'm using proper tuning, which the course, the Fretboard Visualization course, that totally accounts for standard tuning. So we both teach it, or I sort of certainly teach when we get to the higher strings, and making sure that we structure it in such a way, and we design the course that, especially when I'm going through the systematizing of the 2-point shapes and the drills, the drills that we do in the course, I'm teaching that in standard tuning. So I do all of those chapters because we thought, felt that was so essential. It was one of my big contributions to the system really, was to organize and systematize the 2-point shapes in such a specific way that when you practice it in the drill, you organically account for the kink in the tuning. So yeah, proper tuning. Although we won't sort of disparage Tom's tuning, Tom's superpower tuning. Okay, so Gemboy, this is a good comment. So you should get a viewer to pick a random backing track for you to improvise over. Let us beginners see how an advanced player would approach it. So beginner, advanced, these are all relative terms, but that's absolutely something I'm going to do. But it's not quite how you meant, not quite how you are phrasing it. One of my goals is to start a bit of a series, potentially film a course, design a course on like how to survive something that I call real book roulette. So one of the things I did, I'm still on this correct thing, aren't I? Screen. So hopefully you guys can see this, and I'm not going to do it now because the stream's already run too long. I'm going to have to stop it because we have to go to bed. But one of the things I did when I was practicing learning to play changes and improvising was to do this thing I called like real book roulette, where I would just choose a standard at random, so just shuffle and then be like, okay, I've got to play through this at sight, or shuffle, play through this at sight, improvise through it, shuffle, play through this at sight. And it doesn't matter how like simple or difficult or how good or how bad it was. The point was to just like make it through. And this actually came about through my jams and in playing, my early days jams with Tom, like in 2016, 2017, where I would go around to Tom's, he'd come over here, and then he would just choose and pick them from out the real book, usually the real book 3, so where all the harder fusion tunes are. Some of the most disgusting, complex tunes to play. In fact, I've probably got an iReal playlist down here, like hard tunes, like hard TQ jam shit, so just ridiculously complex, tunes that he'd make me play, like try and comp along to them, and then take a terrible attempt at soloing through this shit. So that's where my, I really kind of cut my teeth in sort of like having to sort of play something like it's way out of my comfort zone, way beyond me, but just trying to make it and hang on for dear life. And it was amazing, amazing fun. But it's one of those things where I developed this idea, it really pushed me into thinking of like, I want to be able to do this, being able to just like shuffle a real book, take a tune and just play it, and it doesn't have to be a great creative solo, but I just harkening back to the start of the stream where I was talking about my journey of like going from like, blagging it and not really knowing it to being able to do it. It was one of those things, one of the goals was to be able to always be able to like take a confident and somewhat competent solo, even if it wasn't creative, even if it wasn't particularly inspired, just don't like sound terrible. That was my goal initially. Now that changes over time, obviously. Now as I achieve that, now I was thinking, yeah, having some language and vocabulary would be nice too, and being more creative would be nice too. But initially it was about conquering my old jazz school demons of failing so hard. So bringing all that around to your point, Gemboy, is that one of the things on the stream that I'm going to do is get you guys to call out, maybe backing tracks, but maybe call out like random chords or progressions and things, and then just play real book roulette with you and just show you how I go about doing it. So yeah, that's something that I want to get into maybe on the next stream. Cool. So Jason Carter, this is why I've learned to ignore any videos that state shortcut secret the easy way. Learn this in 10 minutes. Yeah, it is. It's all about hard work. I think it's also about like doing the right work as well. Because I think sometimes when people use like the shortcut or the secret, or yeah, obviously that's nonsense. But there are more or less efficient ways of going about, cracking a nut. And it's definitely something that, you know, you can put all of your energies into the wrong thing, or something, or into the thing that is going to like massively be either indifferent or actively working against your goals. So a lot of the way I think how traditional electric guitar is taught is to very often, it's definitely one of those things where, you know, it's traditionally taught in such a way that can be extremely detrimental to your progress. And I know that because I went through it when I did my grades, my UK grades. You know, on the electric guitar, you know, I was just cramming and memorizing things I didn't understand, just to reiterate them in an exam, to not be able to do much with it. And you know, the way that whole thing is taught is just antithetical to actually, you know, what good progress means to me now on the instrument and music. So yeah, it's one of those things, yeah, that you just got to channel hard work into the right context and with the right way. And knowing what that is, that's where I think finding a good teacher, or, you know, somebody that you can trust, or, you know, has some sort of beneficial or proven kind of record or abilities that can sort of help you in that respect. Because it's not always simple as naively just following the good path of like doing your grades, going to music college, because you know, that's not the as I experienced, you know, that is not necessarily the thing that's going to actually help you. Yeah, how much time and money you spent on the sale tricks. Yeah, that's a shame. Sorry to hear that. It's one of those things that maybe it does take some experience of, like, you know, getting burnt and to realize it. And so I'm going to wind it down. I've had a really great fun stream, guys. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If anyone got any more questions, I've got maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes if anyone wants to, anything else you want to ask, or for me to just go through again briefly. I'm going to make these a regular thing. I've enjoyed doing this today so much. It's been so much fun that I'm definitely going to do it more often. If you've got any suggestions for topics for the streams, or anything you'd like me to cover, do let me know. Drop it in the comments, send me a message on Instagram or something. And just a reminder, the course, the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course, where Tom and I teach this 2-point system in great laborious detail over 5 hours. It's a companion for the solo iOS 2.0 app. It's got a full practice routine for that. That's available right now for the next couple of hours. While we're talking about money, that's available with a $60 off discount. You can find using the code BBLive25. Let me just pull that up. Yep. So, hold on. I need to get better and more professional at my switching stuff. So yeah, we've got the Ultimate Fretboard Visualization Course. It's 5 hours, full high quality practice routine for Solo 2.0 and iOS. Teaches the 2-point system in full, and if you want to get $60 off that, you can grab it with the discount code BBLive2025. Use that at checkout. That will be live, available for the next couple of hours, maybe hour or so. Just for you guys that have watched the stream, it's $60 off. It's the biggest discount we've done yet. And as an appreciation for your support and watching the stream, thanks very much. Thanks, Dan. Jason, are there any social media groups for solo where we can compare notes, etc.? Discord. There are not currently. However, there is. It's something we've kind of mulled back and forth, and it's one of those things where the overhead in terms of moderating and running that kind of thing could eat into the time that we have to spend on actually working on it. There's only the three of us, and you know, we do it as part of our jobs. You know, and the software engineer Mike, he has a full-time day job for a high-profile company. You know, Tom and I are working, doing all of our normal guitar life things, and family life things. So it's just like solo is like a big part, and it's something we work on a lot. But you know, if we were to kind of dilute the energies too much, then we'd find it even harder to work on updates. So we don't have anything like that right now. That said, I've definitely contemplated having like potentially getting my own Discord or my own kind of community thing. I do have a Patreon at the moment. That's if you want to check out that, where I've got some chat options in there. However, that's more just for people supporting on Patreon. But yeah, I do have things in mind that I want to potentially develop where I might have like a solo subsection of my own Discord or something. Cool. Okay then, guys. Well, yeah, it is 20 to 10, man. So it's been over 2 hours. But yeah, great fun, and thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging and jamming and dramming with me. And I'm going to get off. Any other questions, yeah, just drop them into the comments on this if you're watching on catch up. And if you're watching this on catch up and you're trying to use the discount code, I do apologize. It was only for people whilst the stream was live. That said, you know, we do run these things from time to time, so stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I know a few of you joined in to the chat saying that you didn't get a YouTube notification. Do make sure that you subscribe to the channel and that the bells rang for those notifications. Thanks, Jason. Yep. See you next time. Hopefully next Sunday. I think I am call for next Sunday. As long as I'm not gigging, I'm going to try and do it. So, yeah. So I'll put a stream together and think of another topic. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next week. Thanks so much, and bye-bye. Thanks, Stacey. Thanks, Han.